Okay, hello everybody. Good afternoon or good morning or good evening, whenever you're listening to this. It's afternoon for me. My name is Mason Jenkins, and I am the Spiritual Care Supervisor at Valley Hospital. I'm going to talk to you today about spirituality and how maybe it can help us to cope during this pandemic that we're facing, where we've got a lot of different and unique challenges in our lives right now. There's a lot of isolation and a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, and these are things that cultivating our spirituality can help us to combat some of the negative impacts of isolation, feeling disconnected from people. So before we jump in, I would like to take a minute just to recognize that our world is really chaotic right now, and we've all got a lot on our minds and our hearts. We're worried. There's just a lot going on. So I'd like to set the intention for this brief time we have together today, that it might help us just to slow down. It might bring us a bit of calm, a bit of peace. And so with that intention, I would invite you to just put your feet flat on the floor, sit in a nice, upright, comfortable, seated position, and just take a few nice deep breaths. And as you breathe in, just take notice of what you're feeling. And as you breathe out, just try to accept where you're at right now. So we breathe in and we breathe out. All right, so we're just going to have that intention of having this be a nice space to help us find a little respite, a little calm amidst our lives, which may be really busy and chaotic right now. Now, when we take a couple of deep breaths like that, it's a good way to acknowledge what's going on inside of us, what's going on around us. And we can also notice what our reaction is. You know, what's our response to something in our hearts, in our minds? Is there worry or fear that comes up? You know, those are natural things to come up. So I would just invite you to accept whatever comes up for you when you stop to take a few deep breaths, and just be easy with yourself. These are hard days we're facing, and we need kindness and gentleness more than we need discipline and, judgment of ourselves. So our goal today is going to be to consider what is most essential in our lives and how that has been impacted by the pandemic. And when I say most essential, that's going to lead us right into what is spirituality and how can we embrace it? How can we use it to help us cope in this difficult time? Now, by spirituality, what I mean is the way that you find meaning, hope, comfort, and inner peace in your life. Many people find spirituality through religion. Some people find it through music, art, or a connection with nature. But one thing is for sure is that it's an intrinsic aspect of being human. So, it's not going to be something overtly religious for everybody. There's a lot of different ways that how we find meaning and comfort and connection, how those things get manifested. And that is what our spiritual life is about. What gives our lives meaning day to day? What am I focusing on to help me get through? Is it my family? Is it my relationship to my work? Is it nature? Is it some kind of activity that gives my life fulfillment? Maybe it's a traditional religious practice. Whatever it is that gives your life fulfillment, meaning, enriches your sense of belonging in the world. That's what I mean when I'm talking about your spirituality. Now, when I say things that give us meaning, things that give us hope, things that give us comfort, things that help to connect us to what's important, it's not hard to think about how the pandemic has disrupted a lot of those. So previously you found a lot of meaning in spending time with your grandchildren or with somebody you love, or going out to eat with friends, and now those are things that you can't do. Likewise, going to church has not been an option for most people. Maybe you have a family home down at the shore where you are accustomed to spending time with people you love, and you couldn't go down there. So there are a lot of ways that our lives have been disrupted by the pandemic. But I'd also like for us to consider how maybe there's an opportunity too in this moment for us to think about what's really important in our lives, and for us to, we've got this pause, we've got this, it's kind of like a retreat from regular life for us to step back and to say to ourselves, God, what is really important in my life, and as things get moving again, as we start to do things that we had previously stopped, we might be able to just be a little bit more intentional about picking up the things that are most meaningful and most beneficial to our well-being. One of the hardest things for a lot of people has been the lack of human touch and human connection. That's really detrimental to people. We know, there's a lot of good research that shows being isolated and alone is actually worse for your health than smoking, obesity, high fat diet. It's actually worse than those things to be isolated all the time, because we are meant to be around other humans. We're meant to have human connection, to feel emotion. That's all part of what it means to be human. And I know a lot of us have been working on Zoom calls and trying to see our families through the computer, and that works for a little while, but it's not the same as being in person with people. So we need to recognize that that we need to be careful with ourselves, we need to be gentle with ourselves, and we need to get that human connection wherever we can. Now, the other thing that's difficult with this is that everybody sort of has their own take on what's necessary to be safe amidst the pandemic, right? And so maybe this causes a little conflict within families, where one side of the family wants to be super careful and the other side thinks it's over the top, and somebody in the family works in healthcare, so they've seen some firsthand cases, and so they're really zealous about being safe. Everybody's got their own experience, and it's important that we can recognize that we're all going through something together, even if we all have like a maybe slightly different interpretation of what's necessary to be safe and to be responsible. I would encourage folks, get outside, into the open air and see people in that way. That's been really helpful for me, to be able to be outside, to keep some distance from folks that are not in your immediate circle, but still be able to check in and to visit with people. It's just really crucial to who we are as humans and what we need to be healthy and well and to thrive. We're all creatures of relationship, right? Humans succeeded in evolution because we're able to work together and help one another and think creatively. Individually, we're just not as strong, we're not as resilient, and so we're really meant to be in community with other people. Now that kind of goes against a little bit of American ethos, of our culture, where we want to believe that we're very independent and we want to be self-sufficient, and those are good traits to an extent, but we're all dependent upon others, whether for our food, our health care, love and affection, support. So this is a time where we really need to depend upon each other. And, if that's hard for you, it's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for most people to admit, God, I need some help. I'm feeling really lonely. This Zoom call isn't cutting it. Can we please just meet in the driveway? And just to say that I'm struggling. What an opening that is for to expose yourself in a way that you say to somebody, I'm struggling right now. We're not accustomed to it. It's hard. But if we can do it, it opens up the door a little bit for other people to connect with us, to be of help to us. If you're a religious person, you open up that opening, you say, God, I'm struggling, I can't do this on my own. I need help. Whatever your belief is, asking for help, seeking help, admitting that you need help. That's, there's a lot of traditions where that's the first step in having a relationship, in being connected, in getting support. So I really encourage you to think about who's your community, who are the people and the things and the values that you connect with during this time. I think it's really important that we foster, relationships with family and friends. Maybe you've realized how important your religious community is to you. Maybe you've seen that you feel a real sense of loss not being able to be in your house of worship, every week. And that's a real difficulty for you. Maybe you struggle with addiction, and maybe you use 12-step programs to help you in that, and a lot of the services for folks in addiction have been short-circuited by the pandemic. I was hearing on the news just this morning that drug overdoses are up considerably this year from March to June over last year from March to June, a considerable percentage, and it's not hard to imagine why. If you're somebody who struggles with addiction, it requires rigorous maintenance and resources to keep you on the right track. So, we got to be careful with ourselves, with our loved ones. Maybe you have managed to make really good connections with people online. Maybe you've got a Facebook group you're a part of, or some other kind of support group or meeting that meets online, and that's been a good way for you to connect with people. I've got a few friends, and we've gotten into this playing board games online. So we just meet up and Saturday nights, and we go to this specific internet site where you can play games together, and so that's been a way I've been able to connect with somebody in just a casual, easy way. So being connected to other people, to some things that are important to us, that's really important. Another thing that's really important is for us to foster a spirit of gratitude. When we look at the world around us and we listen to the news, or we go on social media and we hear a lot of negativity, there's always contention in the political realm. We're all, there's uncertainty about the course of the pandemic and where it's headed. The negativity is all around us, right? And so it takes a bit of intentionality to lift up what is happening in our lives and what we feel and what we see. That's, where there's still joy and there's still positivity, and we still have there's still goodness and love in our lives. So we really need to be intentional about noticing those things and seeing them and being thankful for them. Um, Humans are resilient, and the power of love and connection in our lives is something that is really strong. And if we can foster that, it can be a real antidote to a lot of the negativity and the anxiety and the depression that might be going around at this time. So one way that some folks do that is just to have a gratitude practice where you take note of some things that you're grateful for. You write them down. You have a set time during the day where you say, I had a really good talk with my son today. Getting out on a walk and seeing my neighbor was something that I was really grateful for. This song that came on the radio, really connected with me. And just lifting up those things in your life that are working, that are, you feel good about. There's something fundamentally spiritual about being able to focus on what's positive in our lives and what helps us to feel connected. Because if we continually focus on and we lift up the things that make us feel isolated, make us feel disconnected, we're going to give those things more power, and it's going to end up feeding more isolation and more disconnection. So we really need to be conscientious about lifting up and seeing in our lives what helps us to feel connected and helps us to feel supported. I want to recommend to you a practice which I've been reading about, which is called 3 Good Things. It's in the same vein as this gratitude practice that I'm talking about, but it's a little bit more specific in its execution, and there's actually a bunch of good scientific research behind it that shows it has really beneficial effects on well-being, happiness. So let me describe it to you. So it's called 3 Good Things. And the idea is, in the study that comes out of the Duke Center for Health and Safety, is that some point towards the end of your day, preferably within 2 hours of going to bed, you would just take note of 3 good things that have happened today and what was your role in helping to bring those things about. So that's it. It takes no more than a couple of minutes each evening. And the study recommends that you do it for 2 weeks. So each evening for 2 weeks, you take note of 3 good things and what your role was in bringing them about. And the findings they are getting from this intervention is really incredible. Not only is the sense of well-being and happiness increased over 2 weeks, when they go back to those folks 6 months, even a year later, there's still a notable increase in a sense of well-being. So it's actually got a ton of potential to be really positive for people's lives and people's outlook, even compared to basic antidepressant medication like SSRIs, Prozac, or whatever. This intervention for only 2 weeks has a prolonged benefit that is above and beyond some of these antidepressant medications. So something to think about. The point being that you have a great deal of power to influence the way that your mind works, the way that you perceive the world, what you focus on. And if we can have a practice that consistently helps us to focus on the positive, it can have a really beneficial effect on our well-being, our sense of feeling connected. So being connected, lifting up the positive things in our life, we really create the world that we want to live in, right? So by the way that we think, the story we tell about our lives, the way that we conceive of ourselves, who we are in the world, all of those things bring about the reality of our world and who we are and what is available to us. So if I believe in my heart that I am, no good, that I'm not worthy of good things, I'm not lovable, that will manifest itself. I will be harder to love. It will be harder for people to connect with me. It will be harder for me to find the positive, meaningful things in my life. On the other hand, if I can experience myself as being truly lovable, if I can recognize that I bring about good in the world by my presence and by helping other people, that can be compounded, right? So that's what I would say. You know, the pandemic, I think it's led a lot of people to feel somewhat disempowered. And our political landscape too. I think it lends itself to a lot of despair and a lot of feeling like we don't have power over our world or our circumstances. And I would beg to differ that we really have a great deal of power within our personal sphere, who we connect with every day, what we do with our daily lives, that we have a lot of power to influence the world for a better, but not if we listen to all of the fear and the anxiety that's in the world around us. You know, we can recognize those things, we can be responsible about how we respond, how we are in the world, but we need to lift up and to focus on the things in our lives that are positive, that help us to feel connected and to feel gratitude for those things. So that's about all I've got for you today. I'd like for us to just close with a couple of deep breaths. If you feel like closing your eyes, go ahead and just breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. May your day and your place in the world be a place of peace and a place where you are loved and love, and where you can truly become all that you're meant to be in this world. Peace.